Welcome back, everyone. Oz here, and today I've got some r/am I the asshole for you all. As per usual, I'll be reading the post, giving you my thoughts and opinions, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. Hey, real quick, by the way, Gamersupps is doing a 21% off for all partner codes, so if you want to get some Gamersup for cheap, go use code Oz at checkout because the sale applies to all items site-wide, so definitely take advantage of that. Every purchase made using code Oz supports me directly, and I do mean directly. The sale starts February 21st at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and is going all the way until February 28th at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. From a deleted account. Am I the asshole for telling my mom not to babysit anymore when my husband changed his mind? Reddit has deemed this user not the asshole. My husband is a lawyer and I'm an engineer. We both have intense careers, but he wanted a second child. I was happy with our daughter, but he really wanted another child. We now have 2 daughters, aged 3 and 1, and I came back from maternity leave and my mom took over full-time caring for them. We both work full-time, so she takes them when we work. My mom is a nurse, but quit to look after our kids. I insisted we should pay her the going rate for daycares in the area, which is around $1,500 a child. So, we pay $3,000 for her to care for our children, cook for them, etc. She will also pick them up sometimes as we may need to be in the office early. My husband complained a lot about how expensive it was to pay her. He makes $140K and I make $110K, so we can afford to pay her. But he thinks we're overpaying her and complained about it to her face. My mom is not very confrontational, but she got very upset. I argued with him on this for months until I decided it was better for her to go back to work and for us to use daycare. Finding a daycare was hard, and now we pay $1,800 a child for daycare, and daycares, obviously, will not pick up your children, nor will they cook for them. We have less time now, and at a higher cost for our children to be sick a lot during the winter season. So far this year, we've been sick as an entire household 3 times. I was on a business trip and my husband was late picking up our children, which resulted in a $75 late charge, which my mom would not have charged extra for. My husband is now demanding that my mom leave her job to go back to babysitting our children, but I won't let her because he did no research into the real cost of childcare and kept complaining how expensive it is even when I showed him. My mom, even part-time, makes $4,300 a month as a nurse, and I told my husband if we want her doing the childcare, we need to pay her that amount. Remember, we already pay $3,600 for daycare. He wants her to go back to the $3,000 charge and is angry and claims my mom is asking for too much for such a simple job, and that a grandma taking care of her grandchildren is a privilege. I told her not to quit and him that she isn't babysitting, which reduces his number of free hours and makes our lifestyle harder. So he's angry at me for demanding we pay her what I feel she's owed. My mom probably would do it for free if we wanted, but I definitely don't think it's fair. She needs to save for retirement and she has bills as well. Am I the asshole here? So, your husband demands a second child, your mother offers to do daycare for essentially free, you want to pay her $3,000, which is a going market rate, and your husband thought it was too expensive, told that to her face, decided to go and put kids in regular daycare, which was actually costing more, and was even more of an inconvenience because you no longer had the luxury of meals being cooked for your children or for them being picked up at your leisure at a more expensive rate. Your mom finds a new job which pays $1,300 more than you were previously paying her, and now your husband thinks that he's entitled to just demanding her to quit her current job to go back at the previous rate that she was working at. Yeah, that's just... Your husband needs to get a grip, is I think what I'm trying to get at here. He wanted a second child, y'all had a really good deal going on that your mother was happy with, and that you guys were having an extremely leisurely way of actually handling childcare, and your husband killed the golden goose because he thought he could find something better, and turns out, nope, this should be a learning lesson for your husband. He didn't listen to you, he thought he knew better, and he just wants to take advantage of your mother's generosity. And yeah, you're probably right, your mother would probably do it for free, and I'm actually very happy that you're wanting to essentially pay for what she would be losing if she quits her current job. Your husband fucked around and he found out. You're not the asshole in this situation in the slightest. I honestly think that you should sit down with your husband and have the conversation of, hey, are these amenities that we became used to at $3,000 worth getting back for $1,300 more? Husband fucked around, thought he knew better, and he found out. Blue Valkyrie 8. Am I the asshole for not forcing my daughter to visit her dad? Reddit has deemed this person not the asshole. Hello, so I have a very complicated co-parenting relationship with my daughter, 13's, dad. He lives in another state and rarely visits. He visits once a year. We do have a court order that states he can have visits, we just need to work them out first. We do a shared calendar. Now, we don't do a whole lot of stuff, so there might be 1 to 3 weekends that are busy throughout the entire year. In January, he messaged me saying he would be coming out in February. I hadn't put anything on the calendar yet, but knew we would be busy only 1 weekend that month. Valentine's Day, then my birthday is the next day. That just happened to be the weekend he picked. I told him that wasn't a good weekend, but every other weekend was completely open. He got mad, said no, he was coming down that weekend and there was nothing I could do about it. Honestly, I wasn't going to argue with him, so I informed my daughter that her dad was coming out that weekend. She freaked out when hearing when he was coming out. She told me her friends had told her that her crush was planning on asking her on a Valentine's date, which would be her first ever date. She immediately called her dad and begged him to move the weekend. He actually yelled at her, then yelled at me for turning her against him. She ended up hanging up on him and has been ignoring his calls since. Well, she was asked out on a movie date for Valentine's Day to be supervised by the boy's mom. So Valentine's Day comes, her dad is in town now, and she refuses to go and goes on her date. She refuses to even meet up with him. I've tried multiple times to get her to see him, even for a bit, but she is not budging. He is obviously very mad and he's now threatening to call the police and the courts to see if I can be thrown in jail. I've tried talking to her, but I can't drag her into the vehicle and force her to stay with him. So, am I the asshole? Your daughter's at an age now where it's incredibly difficult to get her to actually want to visit a parent that she wants nothing to do with, and she's going to be reaching that age where she's probably going to be drawing a hard line for not wanting any kind of visitation. And especially with her father pulling shit like this, it's not going to be very much longer until she wants him totally out of the picture, especially if this is how he behaves and acts. I will say you may have fucked up by not arguing and pressing the issue further for when he was coming to visit, because by the sounds of it, just from what you described, you have a court order that states that he can have visits, you just need to work them out first. If he shows that you had any kind of agreement towards that visitation, then he might actually have some leeway with the courts. Definitely keep a paper trail to show that he attempted to strong-arm you, 100% so. You're gonna need that. But assuming you're in the US, most family courts aren't going to just simply throw your daughter to his arms and put you in jail because your daughter didn't want to visit him. He's just using that as a threat, something that when I was growing up, I watched my parents do a lot during their divorce proceedings. Definitely though, talk to a lawyer, 100% so. They're gonna have more information on the ins and outs of this and they'll know if this is an empty threat or not. So, that is probably the most important part of that. But legalities and threats of jail time aside, you're not the asshole in this instance because your daughter is trying to live her teenage girl life and actually just be a normal kid, but her father, for some reason, is still treating her like a child and doesn't understand that they've got things going on. They want to try being a regular kid. It's not her fault that her father decided to live in a different state. Hell, she even called and tried to beg him not to come so she could have her Valentine's Day date, and instead he yelled at her. So yeah, the father in this instance is most certainly the asshole without a doubt. OP is totally fine here. Only recommendation is to make sure he doesn't have any kind of legal leverage or ground to actually throw those threats your way. Ella Faith 0. Am I the asshole for making my boyfriend's mom cry because of a petty rule? Reddit has deemed this person not the asshole. Let's find out why. So me, 21 female, and my boyfriend, 24 male, have been together for almost 2 years and live together. His mother is very involved in his life. Some might say overbearing, but I try to be respectful. She's nice, but has this way of pushing boundaries while acting like she means well. So the issue, I have a no shoes in the house rule. My boyfriend is cool with it. All my friends do it, no problem. But his mom refuses. She claims it's rude to ask guests to take their shoes off, and that it makes her feel disrespected. I've tried explaining that it's just a cleanliness thing, but she won't budge. Last weekend she came over and, surprise, surprise, walked in with her shoes on. I very politely, I swear, said, "Oh, can you take them off, please?" She kinda huffs and is like, "You're really gonna make me do this?" And I just stood there, waiting. She sighs dramatically, takes them off, and spends the whole visit sulking. Then later, I get a text from my boyfriend's dad saying I made her cry and she feels like I'm trying to assert dominance over her and her son's home. Our home, actually. My boyfriend is on my side, but now his parents are acting like I've disrespected the Queen of England. Am I the asshole for standing my ground on a very normal rule? I mean, I have this rule. I mean, hell, I grew up with this rule. The two things that I can personally recommend to make this easier for your guests is one, get like a bunch of cheap like booty socks. So in case someone shows up with flip-flops or sandals, they can put on like a pair of easy socks that are just, kind of either disposable or can easily be washed, and they're kind of there for guests. The other thing you can do, especially in the case of your, boyfriend's mother, which I don't personally like these because they never really work right, but it could be a good middle ground just to make her stop sulking, is to get some indoor shoe booties. They're like $10 for a pack of 100 or something like that, and you can even get like a little tray where you put your shoe in it and it automatically wraps your foot up for like $30. So you can maybe get one of those as like a compromise, because trust me, I understand, as I've dealt with a partner whose parents did this. I've dealt with mopping my floors, spending a shit ton of time getting them clean, and then girlfriend's parents come in wearing shoes and they get mad at me and act like I'm some kind of fucking troll because I want them to take their muddy fucking shoes off on floors that I just mopped. I keep my floors so clean that someone with sensory issues can walk on them barefoot. It's a little obsessive, but it's how I like it. And also, just a general recommendation, if you have ADHD, like cleaning but don't like getting things out too clean, it's 100% worth investing in like a cordless stick vacuum that's really powerful, or a stick mop that has its own water basin and stuff like that. Yes, they are expensive, but they will help you keep things clean, because I went from hating vacuuming because I hated dealing with cords or hated dealing with the hose to getting a really nice and powerful stick vacuum, and I will just take the vacuum out and clean when I'm bored because of just how convenient it is to clean. Trust me, invest in nice stuff for cleaning. It is worth the money you put in. YeetySkeety. Am I the asshole for not explicitly stating my punch is non-alcoholic? I, 25 female, recently attended a potluck-style work party and brought punch, which has since caused a problem between myself and another coworker, 42 female, who we'll call Sandy. Last week, my boss hosted a party at his house to celebrate the end of a very busy season and a job well done. All of my coworkers and their spouses were invited, and we decided it would work well to do a potluck to offset the cost of feeding everyone, about 35 people, since not everyone who came brought a spouse or significant other. I volunteered to make a punch that I've brought to previous work events that everyone said they enjoyed, as well as some fruit to go with it. This was a casual party with alcohol present, but since I have some coworkers who don't drink, I didn't add any alcohol to this punch, and figured that if people really wanted some, they'd just add it themselves. Fast forward a couple hours, and Sandy is getting even louder and more dramatic than normal, and is stumbling around the party. I didn't think much of it and figured she brought her own drinks or was adding some of the host's alcohol that was put out into something else. She suddenly fell off the chair she was sitting on and made a big show of saying it's because she was so drunk. She then asked me, in front of the rest of our coworkers, what it was that I put in the punch. I was confused and told her what was in it. Just a mix of ginger ale, 7-Up, orange juice, and a can of juice concentrate. And she wanted to know what alcohol I put in it, because she's been drinking it all night and is really feeling it. I told her that I didn't put any alcohol in it, and asked if maybe someone else had spiked the punch bowl. Nobody said they added anything, and one of my coworkers who doesn't drink even said that they've also been drinking the punch all evening, and was still completely sober. I also would like to clarify that I understand how context can matter, like if everyone else was really drunk, then that can make even a sober person feel like they're loaded, but that definitely was not the vibe. Sandy was the only person acting drunk. She then got really quiet and went by herself to the bathroom. The rest of my coworkers and I exchanged some awkward glances and tried to laugh it off. She left shortly after, and I received an angry text from her about how I shouldn't have embarrassed her like that, and that now she looks like an idiot in front of our bosses and the rest of our coworkers. She's been hostile to me at work ever since and is basically refusing to talk to me. I didn't think I did anything wrong, and most of my coworkers agree with me, but some say that I should have just let her go on thinking that the punch was alcoholic to save her the embarrassment, and I'm wondering now if I'm in the wrong. Am I the asshole? So first and foremost, the problem with pretending it was alcoholic to save face, for people who did not want to be drinking and thought the punch was non-alcoholic, suddenly you put them in a position where it's, oh shit, am I no longer sober? Have I been drinking this entire time? And you start that whole panic by trying to save face for one person who thought they were drinking alcohol and made a complete fucking fool of themselves. And even if the punch was alcoholic, Sandy still made a fool of herself by not showing any form of self-control. Like, she overdrank, made a giant scene in front of all the coworkers, specifically pointed you out by asking you, what did you put in the punch? And to me, that almost sounds like she was trying to make you look like the person who was in the wrong here for over-pouring in the punch bowl. I don't know, maybe Sandy has it out for you, but still. Then when you go and state, oh no, it's just regular punch, suddenly she's in the position where she made a giant fool of herself in front of everyone and stormed off from the party. Like, she made the false assumption she was drinking spiked punch and for some reason decided to act like a complete buffoon. That's in no way on you, but it is incredibly fucking embarrassing for her. But I still do genuinely wonder if Sandy tried calling you out like that, trying to put you in an awkward position where you were the one who caused the problem, and not her. In the end, even if you did bring an alcoholic punch, she still overdrank and made a fool of herself at her boss's house, not the asshole. Mossy 333. Am I the asshole for telling my roommate that my cat isn't hers? Reddit has deemed this person not the asshole. Let's find out why. So I, 22 female, have this one roommate, 20 female, that I've always kinda had issues with. Her and I don't click, and I don't mind that because it happens, but last night, I kinda got after her because I got tired of her treating my cat like she's hers. I'm not sure if it's important, but my cat is my emotional support animal, and I don't care that much if my roommates play with her. She's still 5 months and needs quite a bit of playtime. I had to set some ground rules though. She's in my room, so I told my roommates that I don't care if they take her out, just message me or let me know. The other rule is that if they take her out, they have to leave the door open so she can get to her litter box, her food, her water, etc. My room is also her space to go to when she feels overwhelmed too. This one roommate though has taken her up to her room and closed the door to her room and my room a couple of times and doesn't tell me. So every time I'm searching for her, freaking out a little that she got out. I've told this roommate a couple times to let me know and keep the doors open. She also will have friends over and introduce the cat as, "This is my sweet girl," even if I'm sitting there. Anyway, last night I had gotten fed up with it because at 1 AM I wanted to go to bed and I couldn't find my cat anywhere. So I started shaking the treat box. I could hear jingling upstairs, so I looked up the stairs and I watched this roommate chuck my cat out her door. So I marched up there and confronted her. I did raise my voice a bit, but I'm pretty fed up with her. Now she's been calling me petty and childish, telling the other roommates I won't let her see my cat because I hate her. Not true. I didn't say she couldn't see the cat, I just told her she needs to listen to the rules and stop treating my cat like it's hers. She's also been avoiding me, telling the other roommates I screamed at her for no reason, and that she's worried about continuing to live with me if I can't control my emotions around her. This situation isn't the only thing she's done, but I'm wondering if I'm the asshole and if I should have handled it differently. Edit. I've gotten quite a few comments about her being locked in my room, and I think that this is the best way to clarify. She isn't locked away in my room all day, just when no one's home. We, my vet including, believe she has pica, which is where she regularly consumes non-food material. I've been working with my vet with this. My room is the only place I can guarantee that she can't get something. So when no one is home, she's in my room, which she's only in for a couple of hours a day because my other two roommates let her out if I'm not home and they are. And I have a ton of toys and climbable things in there. I also take her on walks when the weather is nice to help with being locked up. I do not like leaving her in my room, but it is for her safety, similar to creating a dog. Sorry for any confusion this has caused. Your roommate is a child and wants all the fun of having a cat but none of the responsibility of having one. Like, seriously. You haven't done anything wrong, and it certainly doesn't help that your cat might have pica or pica depending on what pronunciation you want to go with, which I've lived with an animal that has that. It is not fun and extremely stressful, especially when you have roommates who don't maintain the floor or keep things out of the reach of dogs. It also certainly doesn't help OP in this situation that the roommate keeps locking the cat away from its litter box and food and water. That's just not okay. You've put rules down for, hey, if you want to spend time with my cat, I'm totally good with that. Just make sure she can get access to the food, water, and litter box. My guess would be your roommate doesn't like the fact that when the door is open, the cat keeps running away from her, so she locks the cat in with her, forcing the cat to be with her, so she can feel more like, cuddly with the cat and whatnot. There is also probably the fact that she just wants the cat all to herself and is just being really selfish about it, but you've set rules in place for, hey, if you want to spend time with my cat, this is what you gotta do. She doesn't respect that. She's trying to twist the narrative on the fact that, she's breaking these rules you've set in place, but you're the villain for trying to enforce the rules. If for some reason your roommates ever confront you about it, don't be afraid to explain what's been going on and even inform them of your medical concerns with your cat. That'll change the narrative very quickly and help them understand that she's just being overly dramatic and not respecting your boundaries. Also, I assume you and your roommates might be renting. If you really want to put a nail in the coffin, just let them know that she's locking your cat away from the litter box, and that if the cat pees in her room, that could be a deposit going away. But yeah, most certainly not the asshole. Quizzical nonsense. Am I the asshole for kicking a pregnant woman out of her seat? Okay, so this happened a few hours ago and I've just calmed down because I hate conflict. Basically, I was doing a long travel day, 5-ish hours, so I booked my train in advance to ensure that I had a reserved seat. When I get on the train, a woman is in my seat, so I politely inform her that I think she's in my seat, show her my ticket, and ask her to move. She checks her ticket and just says, well, I must have sit in the wrong seat, and puts her head down. I say that it's my seat, and could I please sit in it? At this point, her partner sitting opposite her starts speaking at me in what I perceive to be an aggressive tone. He suggests I find another seat, which there are none because it's busy. And I say, but I booked that seat, and there are no other seats available in the carriage. He then raises his voice and says, well, someone else is in our seats, and that his missus is pregnant. I say I understand and that I have a heart defect, which I do, and said everyone has their own medical issues and reasons standing for long periods of time might be difficult. And here, I could be the asshole. I ask him not to speak to me in an aggressive tone, and that I will make a complaint. He then starts swearing at me and I ask him to stop. Eventually, the woman gets up and allows me to sit there, and he continues to berate me, saying he hopes I feel good about myself, and that I'm quiet now, I have my seat, when really I just stopped engaging as I felt there was no point. One of the men who was sat beside him offers that him and his partner sit in the seats opposite me. It's a table seat. At which point, he sits his partner down and then laughs at me and points at my face. Eventually, when the ticket inspector comes around, they are asked to move to their assigned seats, and she asks if I'm okay as another passenger had made a complaint on my behalf. Even so, was I the asshole? Should I have just left them alone as she was pregnant? And did I in any way escalate the situation? Edit, as I don't know how able I'll be to respond to all the comments, thank you sincerely to everyone that is engaged with this post. I've learned a lot about myself and my ability to let anxiety and overthinking get in the way of trusting my decisions. I honestly came into writing this thinking that I escalated the situation, so to have people affirm that it's just standing my ground and that this is alright has been really gratifying. It has taught me, however, I have a way to go with standing up for myself and not being such a people pleaser. If I don't get to respond, just know I appreciate your engagement with my post nonetheless, and this has really helped to calm me and give me insight after an incredibly stressful situation. So originally I thought of maybe posting the question of, would OP be the asshole if they did not have a heart condition? But after further thought and realizing more circumstances of the situation, I'm pretty convinced that OP, even if they were like entirely 100% healthy, wouldn't be the asshole in this situation, because why didn't the husband stand? Like, seriously, how come when it came up that his wife was in the wrong seat that his first response wasn't, oh, I should probably give my wife my seat and I'll stand until we get the whole seating situation figured out? Why was it, how dare you kick my wife out of her seat? Now she has to stand. How dare you do this to a pregnant woman? Like, seriously, why didn't he just fucking stand up? Because they weren't in their correct seats. So how come he wasn't the one to jump to accommodating his wife in this circumstance when they were the ones that weren't sitting in the right area? And they claim that, oh, well, someone else is sitting in our seats. Then why didn't they just file a complaint? Like, either the guy just is not a creature of logic or he's lying about having assigned seats, which, considering the ticket inspector came by and removed them and told them to go to their assigned seats, I just think he's not a creature of logic, or maybe OP had better seats and they just thought they could get away with perhaps what was potentially a first-class ticket. This was definitely a guy that uses his stature to bully his way around and get what he wants, and on top of that, you can tell this is who he is because when it suddenly was revealed that everyone could take their seats, he pointed and laughed at her as if, look, I'm the one who won this argument. When it's just like, dude, OP just wanted their seat. So yeah, with all that said, even without a heart condition, OP would not be the asshole in this situation, at least in my opinion. But if you have a differing opinion, let me know in the comments. Hey, welcome to the outro. Don't forget GamerSupps is doing 20% off for all partner codes, so if you use code Oz at checkout, you get 21% off. And yes, it does directly support me. I really do mean that. Again, the sale is going on until February 21st at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, all the way to February 28th at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And of course, not to mention, GamerSupps has more than just caffeine products. They have caffeine-free, they actually have ramen noodles, they have mouse pads, posters, t-shirts. Their t-shirts are actually really comfortable, and just a lot of really cool stuff. Plus non-waifu stuff as well if you don't want to be wearing a degenerate shirt around, so there is that as well. They've actually got some really cool non-anime girl designs that I'm actually a really big fan of. So again, if you want to take advantage of the 21% off and get yourself a nice comfy shirt, this is like the perfect time to do it. Use code Oz at checkout because again, it does directly support me.